Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome to this roughly mid-season review of The Boys Season 4 with me and my new hombre.
Shut up. You can just call me a pet fish at this point, dear lord.
Yes, but that doesn't get quite the same reaction, so I'll stick with hombre. So, Season 4 of The Boys. Now, we've both watched the previous seasons of The Boys, and honestly, Season 1, very good. Season 2, very good. Season 3, beginning to limp along a little bit, largely because, as the writers themselves have admitted now and repeated interviews, they really want you to hate Homelander, and yet they seemingly can't get people to actually hate Homelander. And so now they're trying to pin him to their own rough equivalent of some sort of superhero MAGA movement to see if they can finally get people to hate Homelander, and this episode, if anything, seems to have achieved the opposite for me.
Yeah, if anything, it gave me more sympathy towards Homelander, especially revealing how he was experimented on and basically tortured as a child.
Yeah, because this has always been the thing that's been interesting about Homelander. The fact that he is clearly a very damaged individual. Like his desperate need for approval, the fact that I miss this. I don't know if you've read the prequel comics. There's one around Homelander where he is like given his first job, and he genuinely tries to save people. He actually does try against a bunch of terrorists, but since he's never had any training for this, he ends up like killing a terrorist because he's trying to disarm him by lasering his gun, like Superman does, right? Except since Homelander doesn't know the melting point of the gun, he simply turns it into molten sludge in the terrorist's hands, and it burns his hands off, and he dies of shock. And Homelander is standing like, shit, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read those, but it's like both in the show and the comics, honestly, Homelander is a sympathetic character to the point where it's like no matter how much they try to make him look absolutely insane, the more of his backstory that they feed to us and the more phenomenal acting we get from the actor, you can't hate him. You can't make him not a favorite.
Yeah, that's the problem, because he's got a double whammy here, where on the one hand, you like him because of the fact that he is the victim here. Unironically, he is absolutely the victim here. Raised as a test tube baby, experimented on, tortured, put through all kinds of shit to test his limits and so on, and psychologically conditioned to need love and so on. And he's also just a fantastically scary character. This is what Anthony Stark does best. When he is on screen, you have no idea what's going to happen next. That's the beauty of it, because he can just kill somebody for no reason, and that adds a delicious sense of just scariness to him and his character. So he's a sympathetic character, and he's just a good villain character as well.
Yeah, and it's like, hell, we don't even need any voices. We don't need music or anything. Just with his facial expressions alone tells so fucking much.
Yes, he's just incredibly unnerving when he stands there looking at people. And you know what he's capable of, and that's the thing that they've been trying to reduce out of him too, which, what was it, season 2 or 3, where the final shot is him masturbating on top of a building? Like, they should never have tried to build him down in the way they did. They tried to reduce his threat, and that is the exact opposite of what you should be doing with a character like Homelander.
Yeah, it's like I kind of understand why they had him do that, because, at that point, he is like, I am a god among men. I can do what I'm like. He can do what he wants, so he can stand at the quote unquote top of the world and just like, he could words. it would have made more sense if he just pissed off the side of the building rather than do that.
Yeah, like, I definitely think it is part of their attempt to emasculate him and try and reduce him. But this episode actually did a bit of the opposite again, because now we return to scary Homelander, where he returns to where he was created, and all of the old scientists are still there, and he begins scaring the shit out of them, killing a couple of them, and ends up massacring all of them. And when he's done, he's rising up in the elevator, covered in blood and guts, and he's just smiling as the last chain around his neck snaps. The last thing holding him in check.
It's like, I don't know if they told him beforehand, like, what happened when he was born, because he lasered himself out of his mother's womb and then killing 3 doctors and telling him that people feared him from the get, and saying that the only reason why he didn't let go beforehand is that they like psychologically developed him into an obedient little dog.
Which is also weird. So you've got this psychologist lady who presents herself in a very confident demeanor opposite him and goes like, oh, we psychologically conditioned you to require our love and approval. Like, bitch, if you did this, why the hell are you right now standing in front of the nuclear warhead and needling him? Why the fuck are you telling him this? This is your last chance at leaving here alive, is to play the abusive nursery aunt, essentially. To use the fear of a parent to humble him into submission. That is your last chance, and yet you elect to provoke him. The fuck?
If she was good at her job, she could have... Honestly, she could have easily been able to talk him down from his very obvious mental break that he is about to go through. Because he's just checking off a list at this point, going from the top down. He is not going to stop at this point.
Oh no, and the overall story now appears to be that he is now seeking permission of love of superheroes. He's putting himself up to be separate from humanity. The Ubermensch, which is hardly an original storyline at this point, but in case of superheroes, it does kind of work, especially as he also has a son. I like this storyline, and I like the introduction of Sister Sage. I actually really like Sister Sage, because I love Keikakudori characters who's like, oh, just as planned. I like that. And she is clearly running rings around the good guys right now, to the point where I'm kind of confused why they haven't tried to counter her at any point. Like, they know who she is, they know she's part of the Seven, they know they're getting screwed politically and optically, yet none of them have gone like, okay, maybe we should kill the world's smartest person who's helping our enemies.
Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what they're trying to do in the show, especially with there only being a season and a half left, technically, since they confirmed season 5 is going to be the last season of the show. So how much are they going to try to shoehorn in here until they're like, okay, yep, we're done?
Well, like, I would assume they're going to make Sister Sage either evil, or they're going to have it so that she is at the cusp of fulfilling all of Homelander's wishes, and then he kills her because something petty, nonsensical. Because I don't see why the boys or the CIA, which they work for, haven't just identified her as the threat yet. It's so weird. Like they're currently working to try and kill the future vice president because they know she's the threat, and yet the world's smartest person working for the enemy doesn't seem to register. Like, there's clearly some sort of plot reason for this. Because Butcher, in particular, should know this immediately. He should recognize her as the threat instantly.
It's like my prediction with, like, the end of her arc is it's either going to be a very minimal and very pathetic death, or if she is going to somehow go to the boys and be like, oh yeah, I had a feeling this was going to happen from the get. I planned it like this, and stab Homelander in the back with whatever the heck is underneath the Godolphin, the fucking soup virus thing that they've been developing.
Yeah, possibly, because Sister Sage doesn't really like her powers very much, as there's an interesting scene with the Deep, as in the last episode. Weirdly enough, when she talks to the Deep and is like, hey, you want to watch Transformers 2 and fuck? You're like, that's a weirdly relatable sentence.
Yeah.
You know the racist robots? Yes, I know the racist robots. I remember seeing them on the screen the first time and just like, no.
Oh man, it was fucking funny. And as they were panning out, I got a glimpse of the lobotomy rod, and like, I know exactly what she did. Holy shit. And it was just confirmed. I'm like, man, that honestly, like, weed and stuff would not get that woman high, like, very well. Yep. So lobotomizing herself was definitely smart. How did she figure that out? God if I know.
Wasn't interesting. I like it as a plot point, because she's the world's smartest person, and sometimes, and I imagine this would make you feel as if you're surrounded by toddlers, basically, at all times. And so she wants to feel normal, and so she has the Deep lobotomize her, and then do stupid things together with the Deep, who is probably not one of the most intelligent members around either. It's kind of cool. Weirdly enough, she's an interesting character.
Man, I hope she at least gets out alive so she can just get lobotomized and hang out with the Deep with his octopus girlfriend by the beach. The other story beats as well. So Butcher is dying because he got himself a second dose of proper V, not temporary V, so we don't even really know if he's dying or if his hallucinations are him getting superpowers. That's one thing. Huey's dad now has superpowers. That's gonna be weird. As they pulled his mother, as you mentioned, kind of out of their ass and was like, oh, hey, here's his mom all of a sudden. And she now gave his dad V because Huey couldn't do it. Like, okay. That's a weird plot line. And this also then comes on top of Frenchie's weird gay romance plot line. This also came out of goddamn nowhere. It feels like they ran out of shit to do for this season almost, and so they've created a bunch of new plot lines, like Kimiko also finding this other Japanese girl who's her sister or something, whom she abused with a shining light. So we've got like 4 new plot lines now, which I don't know what relevance has to the actual plot. It feels like almost they're just filling up time with some of this. Yeah, it's like, the only one that seems vaguely interesting is Kimiko's, since it seemed like she was part of essentially a dogfighting pit.
Yeah, because he was clearly being abused by the Shining Light people to do all kinds of wicked shit. I don't know, like, the ones I care about at the moment, A-Train's redemption, I like. He's trying to get to know his brother again. Okay, cool. The Deep is being teased as a redemption arc for the 3rd time now. I wish they'd just get on with it. And, I mean, the house of Vaught is kind of crumbling, with everybody squaring up against Homelander in secret. I don't know where they're going to take the side plot from here. I feel like there's enough main plot to the point where we don't really need to bother with this, but I guess if you've got an hour-long episode you have to fill, this is how you do it.
I mean, they didn't even need to fill it because there's plenty going on in the, front of everything. Because what did we get with Frenchie? Like, crying, showing his ankle, being punched, and more crying for maybe 10 minutes?
Yeah, because he killed his new boyfriend's family, which I'm pretty sure pulled entirely out of their ass. Like, okay. But why did we have this plotline? How does this add anything to anything whatsoever? The answer is nothing, except I guess it distances him from Kimiko, so Kimiko has to go through her plotline on her own, which is a ham-fisted way of doing it, but I suppose that's what it achieves.
I think I still would have enjoyed, all of them having their independent lives, like in the comic, where, then they'd be able to, do some subplots on their own instead of like, okay, Kimiko's always with Frenchie, so they always gotta be together. Oh shit, we gotta split them up now. It's like, let Kimiko have her, hired mercenary thing, have Frenchie do his, I forgot what the fuck he did in the comics. But like, they had their own shit going on. They didn't have to ham-fist them all together.
Yeah, it feels a pinch forced. The Firecracker thing too. Now that one has partial interest, so one of the reasons why the show has gotten really bad downward votes is because they have yet again tried to push through the satirization of the right. Now, The Boys has often tried to satirize both sides and has often succeeded. Like, Vaught is undeniably a progressive company from top to bottom. Like, it is so obviously progressive. It's been struggling to present the right, however, because the problem with satire is you need to understand the thing you're satirizing. And these people very clearly understand leftism deeply. But all they seem to know about rightism is, they like God and guns and conspiracy theories. Like, okay, I mean, that's a rough outline, but you need a fundament here. Like the scene in the episode 3 where they break into the Guns and Christ collection or whatever. And Sister Sage can point to the boys and literally go, oh yeah, you know those CIA assassins you talked about trying to kill the Prime Minister? Vice President. English, Jesus. Here you go. Here are the literal CIA agents. And I mean, they currently are bankrolled by the CIA with a mission to kill the vice president. So, shit, I guess the conspiracy theory proved out to be true.
Oh, man. It's like with Firecracker, that, like, the writer flat out said, yeah, this is based off of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And, like, yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene has ideas. She's a little out there. But honestly, the person that I first thought of when I seen Firecracker was Chaya Rychek, the lady who runs Libs of TikTok. And she has a lot of opinions as well, which, since Firecracker has a podcast and everything is huge on social media, Chaya probably would have been a better choice to base her off of rather than Marjorie Taylor Greene, since she is a senator or a she has a seat in government. So if Firecracker was a seat in government, that would make a little more sense. But that's just me.
Yeah, their view of the right is struggling yet again. Though I did like when Sister Sage is talking to her, like, what are you selling? And she goes like, truth. But eventually she gets said, I'm selling purpose. There's a bunch of, and I like this because they're so close to the point here. Like, there's a bunch of unemployed, disenfranchised people out there. And I'm selling them purpose by saying that instead of being disenfranchised by A or B, you're actually being a target of the conspiracy. You're a warrior against the global conspiracy. And isn't that far more appealing? Right. That is a good point. The only issue is when you then go, oh, it's all a conspiracy theory, and then shit like the Disney tapes drop. Like, oh, so they are being discriminated against. We actually know that one of the largest companies on the fucking planet is discriminating against white people. This is the problem. You have created a victim narrative where you're trying to go like, haha, look at these silly people, they're not the victims. And then you actually look at the world surrounding them and go, well, I mean, they actually kind of seem to be.
Yeah, it's like whenever a quote-unquote conspiracy theory is then, shown to be true, that's when people get like really quiet, and it's like, oh well, we never said that, and it's like, yeah, you denied it the entire fucking time. What do you mean?
This is the problem again with the whole satirization of the right here, because in an age like this, where conspiracy theory and truth is separated by 6 months, you gotta go deeper if you want to satirize the right effectively. And I think they were onto something with Firecracker. They could have done something there to create a more believable victim narrative that she is then selling. Like, I would have used the supes, honestly. Like, it's, So I don't know if you've watched Korra of Avatar, the Airbender, the Korra show of that.
Mm-hmm.
In season 1, they had a very interesting plot line where a lot of the normal people are looking at the benders and going, how the hell am I going to get a job? I can't get a job in the police force because I'm not a metal bender. I can't get a job in the firefighter force because I'm not a water bender. I can't get a job in the medical system because, again, I'm not a water bender with healing and so on. Obviously, people would feel left out of this society. They could easily have done something similar here, where you have superpowered individuals, you have this clearly two-tier society. You could have created a good in-universe reason for why people are being disenfranchised, and then have Firecracker prey on that, instead of going like, oh, silly conspiracy theories in real world. Yeah, but we can prove our conspiracy theories. That's the problem.
It's like, I wish they didn't, confirm what's V called? I'm just gonna call it V.
Yeah,
I wish they didn't Compound V. I wish they didn't release that as like a confirmed thing right away. That could have been like a building thing while trying to struggle with the morality of, oh no, these people are blessed, and then them trying to dig it up with other conspiracy theories and finding that out in like late season 3, early season 4. That would have been cool. And then see all of these people as they're gathered together in these larger separated groups. That would definitely break things down quicker rather than, oh yeah, everyone knows Compound V is a thing now.
Yeah, they could have kind of mirrored Homelander's thing with believing first that he was a gift from God and then eventually finding out that he's in essence a test tube baby. That could be interesting on a wider scale.
Mm-hmm.
Still, overall, I liked this episode much better than the previous 3 episodes, because now we're getting back to Homelander, and we're getting back into the reason why he's doing things again. And if they could just focus back in on that, I'd be relatively happy with this season. They just need to, as you said, they've only got a season and a half left. They've got to focus this stuff back down on his character arc again, and maybe that's what they did today with him cutting his last connections to the past, so that now we can get moving on to the main storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, I hope so, because I really do like The Boys as a series in the show. Like, they did a pretty decent job with everything, despite the now very obvious political leanings, but unlike a lot of people, I can get past that and still enjoy the show for what it is. Because, satire is satire. I may not agree with it, but it's still funny sometimes.
Yeah, they need to get past their stumbling block of not understanding the right wing and getting back to doing their superhero conspiracy nonsense, because that's the fun part of the show. And if they can reintroduce Scary Homelander, then I'll be very happy, because whenever Scary Homelander is on screen, you never know what's gonna happen.
Do you think they'll manage to be able to pull the superhero coup that they did in the comics?
Possibly. I definitely think they're building up to that, because with Starlight going off on Firecracker, we also need a Starlight redemption now, some way to bring her back into the public's good graces, and, I don't know, stopping... Maybe, the president candidate guy gets elected, and then Head Poppy, vice president, tries to kill him, or Homelander does, and she stops it, and that's how they reveal the plot of Homelander, to put all of the normies in cages or something.
For something like that, I think they need at least 2 more seasons for, because I would be disappointed if they tried to do that in like 4 episodes, because then it would just be way too rushed.
Ah, but you assume that your disappointment is not exactly what they're aiming for.
I'm already disappointed with the Lord of the Rings anime movie. I don't want to be disappointed anymore.
It can only ever get worse, Sloomy. Only ever get worse.